Hi there and welcome back to Fat's Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how I make my pizza dough. I've been using this recipe for 4 years. I use it regularly. I have a fair amount of experience with it and I've done some research on the internet about pizza dough. So it'll save you some time in researching if you follow this tutorial. Right, so I've already put into a large bowl 375 grams of doppio zero flour. Now this is imported from Italy. This is typically what they would use in Italy to make pizza. If you don't have this variety of flour, you can use cake flour. And then I've also stirred through a teaspoon of salt. I've stirred through here and distributed my salt throughout my my flour ingredients. And then what I have here is lukewarm water. Now that's roughly about body temperature. Mine is currently at 40 degrees Celsius. You don't want to go above 46 because this dough, I'm going to mix my yeast in this water and it becomes very uncomfortable for the yeast at temperatures of 46 and higher. I've also dissolved a teaspoon of sugar into my water. And I have here a packet of yeast, which is 10 grams. This is instant yeast. And what I like to do, and you can skip this, it's optional, I like to wake up my yeast, as it's called activation. But you could alternatively just throw your yeast in with your flour and your teaspoon of sugar and stir it up and then add your water. But I'm going to first wake these babies up. Right, so I'm going to put my yeast in with my water, just stir it around. Now it's going to take about 5 minutes to wake up these little babies. And what's going to happen is they're going to start feeding on the sugar that I've placed in the water. It looks like a little bit of a mess at this stage, but trust me, it will come right as soon as they start stretching their legs and they start feeding on that sugar. They're going to start growing. And as they grow, they produce carbon dioxide. So you'll see after about 5 minutes, we'll have a froth at the top of this liquid here. Now, I use this pizza dough for 3 purposes. You can use it as a pizza base. It will make 2 large pizza bases. And you can use it to make calzone. Now this is what I usually use this dough for. It makes 2 large calzones, and once they come out the oven, I split the calzones into 2 portions, and it very nicely feeds 4 people. And then recently I've also started using this dough to make pizza rolls, which is actually very delicious. So I spread my dough out into a rectangle, and then I spread out some pizza sauce, the tomato sauce that I would use for either my pizza or my calzone, sprinkle some grated mozzarella cheese, and you roll up your dough like a Swiss roll. And once it's in a log form, all nicely rolled up, you section up the dough, and those little rounds then become a roll, and I pack them into an oven dish, let them rise, let them proof a little bit, and then I bake them in the oven and they make delicious rolls. It's a little cold in here today, so my yeast has taken a while to wake up, but it's alive and kicking now. If you come a little bit closer, you can see that frothiness. You can see a distinctive layer of froth, so it's produced lots of carbon dioxide, and this is now ready to use. So I'm going to add this now to my flour ingredients. I'm going to first just make a hole in the center because I am going to add a tablespoon of olive oil. Now the olive oil gives it some flavor, and it also helps with the consistency of the dough. Right, and then I'm going to scoop this in here. And I like to initially stir this around with a wooden spoon. It's a little bit too icky for me initially. I usually knead my dough by hand, but you can use a stand mixer with a dough hook to do this whole process if you're not comfortable with working with dough, or you don't feel comfortable enough, you don't think you have the technique for the whole kneading process. By all means use a stand mixer, but of course nobody has not everybody has a stand mixer, and you need a pretty sturdy stand mixer to mix dough, and that might not necessarily be available to you either. Okay, so I'm just going to continue mixing until the dry and the wet ingredients start coming together before I throw it out and start kneading it. Right, so I've combined my wet and my dry ingredients well enough already, and I'm going to throw this out onto this pastry mat. Don't worry at this stage if your dough is a little on the sticky side. It can be a little bit unpredictable at times. It depends on how much moisture is in the air, because when there's moisture in the air, your flour does tend to absorb the moisture. But if your dough is sticky, don't be tempted to add any more flour. As you knead your dough and the gluten begins to develop, it'll lose that stickiness. Okay, mine is not too sticky. We haven't had rain in a while, so the flour has just absorbed absolutely all the water that I've added. Now have a look at my kneading action. You take the heel of your hand and you push on the dough forward, you pull back, and then you give your dough a quarter turn. You push on the dough, pull your dough back, give it a quarter turn, push it and turn it, and then you continue like this, back and forth. Now I knead my dough for a minimum of 10 minutes. That's usually enough to develop the gluten. Okay, right, so I'm going to knead my dough for about 10 minutes. It's already becoming smooth and elastic. I'll show you towards the end how you can test for that elasticity that you want to develop during the kneading process. So basically what the kneading process does is it develops gluten. Now what that means is it's like taking bricks and cement and putting the two together to build a wall. So you're working with the proteins in the flour, you're building structure, and that building of the structure is what we call working or developing the gluten. Now, I love getting my hands dirty. It's like working in the garden and getting dirt under your fingernails. And it's the difference between growing your own vegetables and buying them in the store. Now, this dough, you can use this the same day. I've done that before. You put it in a bowl at room temperature. You cover it with a wet cloth, a cloth that you have drenched with hot water, and then you just wring out the excess water and you cover it and you let it rise until it's double in volume. Now this dough can also keep in the refrigerator, and you can keep it up to 5 days in the refrigerator before using it. And actually it's best to go low and slow, keeping the dough at a low temperature and letting it grow slowly. And as it stands in the fridge growing over a period of a day or more, it develops different flavors to what you'd have if you used the dough on the same day. Right, after my 15-minute workout, I'm going to do my elasticity test. My dough looks really nice and smooth and elastic. I'll show you how to roll the dough. You can come in a bit closer. So what you want to do is you want to curl the dough in like this, and you'll see you're going to form like a tight skin at the top here as you do that. And then if you press your finger in the dough, it should bounce back, and that indicates that there is some elasticity in the dough. Okay, so just rolling my ball up a little bit, and let me just place a little bit of flour here. Just round it up into a little bowl. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare the bowl that my dough is going to rest in while it proofs. Just spread that around. Grease the bowl. This will prevent the dough from sticking and also from prevent the dough from forming a crust on the outside. And what I'm going to do there is just swirl it around. Just make sure that the dough is nicely coated. We're going to put the dough that we curled in the bottom. We're going to leave it at the bottom, and I'm now going to cover this with a plastic wrap, and I'm going to pop mine in the fridge. Remember, if you want to use your dough the same day, you need to wet a tea cloth with warm water, wring out the water, excess water, and then cover this and leave it to stand until it's doubled in a warm place. Not too sunny, not too warm. Remember, try and keep the temperature low and try and mature the yeast slowly. Now what I have over here is I have a dough that I prepared yesterday. It's been overnight in the refrigerator. So you can see the difference in the size. Clearly see the difference. It's the same recipe, exactly the same quantities. And that's what it should look like if it's had enough time to proof. I'm tucking my dough in now for the night, and it's going to go into the refrigerator pretty soon. With the other dough that I made yesterday, I'm going to prepare a calzone shortly. If you want to watch a tutorial on how to prepare my calzone, you can just press on the link here and it will take you to the video tutorial on how to prepare calzone. I hope this was informative and hope to see you again soon.